Praise the Lord, and welcome to HUR at Home Inspiration. I'm Jackie Gales Webb. Happy Easter Sunday. Happy Resurrection Sunday to you. He is risen. And because God lives, because Jesus lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, we can face whatever the future holds after a year of dealing with COVID-19. And we can live it in positive expectation, not fearing, but looking forward to the goodness and grace that God has in store for us. And please, as Charles Keener has done, please use our chat to let us know that you are here, and you can ask questions and join in the conversation and lead us in this wonderful Easter conversation. The first HUR at Home inspiration was in the year 2020 on Palm Sunday. And my first guest for HUR at Home inspiration was the guest that I have today, the one and only Pastor Keith Battle. He is the senior pastor of Zion Church and founder of that fine church. Welcome once again.
Hey, you're not tired of me yet?
No, I am so looking forward to this conversation. It's been a year, Pastor Battle.
Yeah.
And so first, let me ask how you are doing. How are you? How's your family, and how has Zion been through this year of many, many different changes?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's such a privilege to be on again with you. And a lot has happened since our last time together, and I remember it well. In the pandemic, as we talked previous to coming on air, you didn't know this, but I actually had COVID-19 early September 5th was when I got a positive test, and it took me 38 days to come out of it before, and it was brutal.
Were you in the hospital?
I didn't go to the hospital, even though there was a request that I would go from the medical staff because my oxygen levels had dropped. But I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just knew my body because I had a pulmonary embolism before. I had a blood clot in my lung, and I'm used to having those drops. So I knew that, when I would test my oxygen at home, they were concerned about how low the level was when you put your finger in that tester where it began. And I'm like, no, that's kind of normal for me. It starts low and it builds up. But they sent oxygen here, and but yeah, it was tough. It gave me an appreciation and respect for COVID-19 that has really made me a lot more respectful of it, more sensitive to it, and more judicious about how we go about approaching even the way we do ministry. Because, I was that person that was very cautious. I was very protective. I followed the protocols. I socially distanced. I wasn't around people. I wore a mask. I did all those things. So you could be doing the right things, but if you're around people who don't do those things, you can get exposed to something. You can just get exposed when you think you're safe, when you're around people you think you're safe around. So that's what happened to me. And so, but fortunately, I'm doing well now. Got the vaccination. And though the vaccination, has pain in the injection site, you may have headaches, you may have fatigue. Trust me, it's minor compared to COVID-19. And it's just introducing our body to a way of fighting off and developing immunity to COVID-19. And so I'm with you on that. We got to encourage as many people as we can to get vaccinated.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for that. And the last time we spoke, that was before WHUR lost one of its sons, Patrick Ellis. That was a few months later. So, we definitely respect what COVID-19 can do.
Absolutely.
And we were urging everyone to get, and still do, the vaccine and to wear your masks and to practice safe distancing at every chance you can, because it's no joke. As Pastor Battle said, when you have it, it's very, very painful.
Yeah.
And we don't want you to have that, definitely.
And Jackie, if I may add to that, the thing that's so difficult about COVID is because it's such an infectious illness, is so contagious that you have to suffer with it in isolation. And I think that's as brutal as the health challenges associated with it is living alone. So I had to be in a space by myself for that time. And that's the thing that has made this very difficult. It's the inability to connect with people that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's touching a glass at a hospital, and things that we never would have thought of is FaceTiming with tears, saying how much I miss you. Those are the things that we're trying to help people to avoid. And if you've been blessed enough not to catch it, why be grateful, but don't be stupid. You know what I'm saying? Be grateful and be wise.
That's right.
So that's and I just wanted to add that piece to it, that's part of the process that is understated. I think it's not just what the virus does to the body and how it attacks the body and the respiratory system. It's how it attacks your social circle and attacks you emotionally. When one, you're fighting to breathe, but number two, you're fighting alone. That's tough.
Yes, it is. Yes,
and we know with God, we're never alone, but it's something about having people around in your life that also helps with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even introverted people who are energized by solitude, this can be a bit much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see Marcus Griffin says that's right. Barbara Belt Brown says the whole time I thought it was Gales, not Kale. It is Gales, Barbara. Gales, that's my name. Carl Clark, happy Easter, everyone. Kathy Miller Wilson, happy Easter. Thank you for joining us, Kathy, and Kevin Christian and Helen Simpson Davis. This is Easter. What special word does God have for his people during this very unique time? What can you sense through the Easter story, the story of the resurrection? What should we be getting out of that story and that experience in 2021?
So the experience of the resurrection story is that Jesus paid a price for us, the sin penalty, right? And he suffered in our stead, and he paid, and the penalty that he paid and the price that he paid was sufficient to a holy God so that we don't have to pay it. So that now through Jesus, we can have the gift of everlasting life through Jesus. So I don't have to work my way into heaven. I don't have to help old ladies across the street. I don't have to give a lot of money to philanthropic work or whatever. I do those things because they're right, not because I'm trying to earn the approval of heaven. Jesus already earned it. We just have to trust him and accept him. So what great news is that? That's just exceptional news that he did for me what I don't think I could ever accomplish on my own, for that matter. And I think what God is, but I think another message that I sense that God is saying now is a word that is used to describe God in the Old Testament, and it would refer to God this way, Jehovah Shammah, which means the Lord is here. And I think one of the things that I believe God wants us to know is that he's still Jehovah Shammah. He's here. And sometimes in darkness and in difficulty and in hardship, it's hard to sense his presence, but he's here. He's here amidst the pandemic. And when we met back in April of last year, the culmination of a world pandemic, which we've never experienced in our lives, not on that magnitude, right? Never before since the early 1900s with the Spanish flu. But it also culminated with a national crisis because Ahmaud Arbery had been killed, and that went public. He had been killed in February, but it didn't go public until right around the time of the pandemic. And Breonna Taylor was killed on March 13th. So you've got a world global pandemic, and you've got a national crisis, right? All of that happening at the same time, and we're still dealing with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're still dealing with racial tension. We're still dealing with this second strand of a virus, which is allegedly more volatile, particularly where they're under-vaccinated people, which means it can mutate even more. And it's attacking children already in Minnesota. They're seeing an uptick in children being infected with COVID. This new strand, which was very minimal before. So we've got all of this, and I believe God is saying, but I want you to know I'm here. I'm here. And you know, it just depends on who says that can make all the difference in the world, right? If you're in the fifth grade and you're about to go out at recess, but you already know that there are 3 girls in your fifth grade class who are going to beat you up on the playground, right? And for whatever reason, they're just picking on you. And if I go out there, I can't go out there, and I'm scared to go out there. But lo and behold, your big sister, your big cousin, and your young aunt show up at the school, and they just say, "Oh, we just decided to come go out for recess with you." So now the game has changed, not because the threat is gone, but because of who's present.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's the presence of God that says, God, okay, if you're here, we're going to be all right. That means you're in charge, because there's nothing that's called providence. The providence is the sovereign control of God over all things. So if you're here, that's a reminder that you're in charge and that all things are working together for good, for them who love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. So if I'm in that category, I love God and I'm called according to his purpose, then no matter what's going on, it's got to be working together. It doesn't have to be good, but it has to work together for my good. Even if it's not good, it's working together for my good. It's sort of like one of my problems is I like desserts and I like sweets like too much, and I like chocolate chip cookies, right?
Okay.
But believe it or not, Jackie, I don't like the ingredients. Now, isn't that a trick?
You don't like chocolate or sugar or flour or what else?
Break it down. When's the last time you enjoyed some flour?
True.
When's the last time you had you a nice little raw egg and had a good time with it? When's the last time you had what is it? Some type of oil, whatever the oil they put in there, just some
oil, whatever.
Straight oil, right? Like the parts are not pleasant. It's when it all works together, right? That's what's good. And if we're eating flour now and we're drinking oil and we're eating raw eggs, I don't like that. I want the cookie. And what the presence of God says, I promise that I will make things for your good. And what that does is, now that your big sister and your young auntie and your big cousin are walking out to the playground with you, again, what that does is it just gives you a level of trust. That I know that there's a threat, but there's not a threat that's stronger than my squad. I'm going to leave that alone. I think you get the point.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because of media is just a tool and it's all in the way we use it. But because of media, we were able to see, the horrible visual of, police with their knees on people's necks for 9 minutes. And just recently, that horrible video of this man just kicking this Asian woman in New York, which was it just really broke my heart and brought tears to my eyes. And here we are, Resurrection Sunday. Yes, Jesus lives, he is risen. but he underwent one of the most horrid injustices in the world. This man had done nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but he was crucified. So I'm just wondering, are we is something about to happen or something? Because we're just, all of these injustices are being revealed to us in such a meaningful, visual way, more than ever before. Yes, we during the 60s we saw people with the hoses and the dogs during the civil rights movement,
Mm-hmm.
but this just seems to be even more horrifying. I wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that changes things for us in 2021 is the access to technology. So, and particularly um, uh, capturing devices, right? So, uh, lynchings and police brutality is not something new. When I was 17 years old, I had a similar experience with a white police officer that pulled me and a friend over, threatened to kill us. I mean, just it was horrifying, right? But so it's not a new thing. But we in America, there are 321 million people, and out of those 321 million people, there are very few people that don't have one of these, right? I mean, our 4-year-olds have versions of it. Our 8-year-olds have them. Our 9-year-olds are sending FaceTime and their grandparents, right? So when you have this, what used to be a cry for prayer, call the police, let's intervene, has now immediately become, let me get this on tape. So where there may be 50 people in an environment where something brutal is happening, my question is, why is it being taped? Why is there not being, who's being kicked to death and stomped to death and there's no intervention? Now, when there's a police officer doing it, we know that there are limitations of engagement and who can stop it. But I think one of the differences is that we're now seeing what God's been seeing all along, because
Wow.
his eyes are everywhere.
Wow.
We just have more eyes now, but he's been seeing this all along. And I don't know if more of it's happening. I just think more of it's being captured. And the difference between it and Jesus was that was a eternal, redemptive, strategic execution. It was already strategized from the beginning of time. He was the lamb slain before the foundation of the world. When God knew that man would fall and there would need to be, the first thing God did was killed an animal and covered up Adam and his wife. So there was going to be some death, some bloodshed, and a covering, right? It was already put in place in Genesis chapter 3. And in the fullness of time, Galatians 4 says Jesus came forth born of a woman, made under the law, because he was going to be the fulfillment of this redemptive plan. So his death, his execution, though he was innocent, he had to be innocent. See, he knew no sin. He became sin for us. He had to be innocent to do it. Now, there's no other person who's been killed who's been totally innocent. They may not have deserved to die for whatever reason they were dying, but only Jesus was sinless. Mm-hmm. And his was eternally planned and redemptive in nature. What we're seeing now is a result of, I think this, and forgive me for the digression. When it comes to police, and I watch very little of it now, because I believe that many of us are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and don't even know it. Like the things that we've been traumatized by, we're all in what they call survival mode now. It's like when you've been in a tragic car accident and there's been the loss of life or the loss of limbs, even if you survive it for a long time, you're just grabbing the wheel like this. You're just in shock. You don't even know that one of your legs is missing. You follow what I'm saying? And that you're hemorrhaging blood, you're losing blood. You're just like this. Most of us don't even know. We're just holding the wheel right now. Mm-hmm. And I know that I'm tapped out because I can't even watch videos anymore. I can't take it. Yeah. I can't take any more. If you send me something and say, look at what happened to this poor black child. Look at what they did to him. Look at how they beat him to death and they stomped him. I can't watch it. I'm already tapped out. I'm tapped out. So where are you going to push me now? I mean, but here's, and that's a whole different conversation. One of the things that I think we have to do, and I know you didn't ask me this question, but one of the things I think we have to do is look at our policing system and how we are placing police officers in contexts and environments that they're unfamiliar with. And whenever you're in an environment that you're unfamiliar with, there's inherent fear in that context. So what we have to do is we have to make police officers police in areas that they're indigenous to. So I can go back to Fairmont Heights, where I grew up, outside of Northeast Washington, D.C., Deanwood area, I'm sorry, and police in that area because that's where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody. I know the streets. I know the side streets. I know the hustlers. I know the drug dealers. I know the crackheads. I know everybody. I know the good people. I know the deacons. I know the people got a blended family. I know people. I know all the trickeration is. I know where there's real threat, and I know where that's just somebody that's just drunk. And by Monday, they'll be getting your groceries for you. But Friday night, this is what he does. Let's just let him. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you put me in an environment I've never seen this before, then everything's a crisis.
Mm-hmm. A threat.
And if you walk at me, then I got to decide who's going to go home to their family tonight. And I think that's part of the root problem that we have. We are placing people in environments where they feel threatened. So what I will perceive as a threat in my neighborhood is different than what I would perceive as a threat if I were in your neighborhood and I didn't know the people. But you could say, he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
He's fine. That's Joe. He's one of the nicest men, but sometimes he has his moments, right? Well, I need to know that, right? So I think that's part of the problem. Systemically, we're setting people up for these, and some of it's just racism, right? Let's just call it what it is. It's just the way people feel about another race. But some of it's just, I'm in a context that I don't understand. So I think if you put in a context like that, one of the first things you need to do is learn your community. Instead of going in there trying to police it, be a part of it. Shoot basketball with the kids. Like, I know it's really, be a part of the community first before you try to police it.
And how about encouraging people in the community to join the police force, the young men and women?
I think that's a great option. See, and those are the areas where there's more policing needed, right? Because the less services you have, whenever education quality and opportunity qualities go down, support services and police protection goes up. Whenever you have better education and better professional opportunities, the need for policing goes down, the need for support services and welfare and food stamps, all that goes down, right?
Right.
So you have these areas where there's heavy policing needs, but there's poor education and poor job opportunities. So since most of the people there are struggling economically and the people who are finding ways of making money illegally are doing it underground, then becoming a part of the police now becomes like you're joining the people who send us to jail. So There's a whole systemic change, so much to fix in our communities that I think require conversations with legislators where policies are made and resources are made to intervene at much younger stages and at every stage. Because just because somebody's 17 or 27, we can't give up on them.
Right.
I think we need intervention at younger ages too. So there's a whole lot. You open up a whole lot of conversation around that, around what we would call systemic injustice.
Yeah.
And the social ills that create some of the problems that we have. But I agree with you. If we have police who are coming out of the communities where they're policing, you're going to have less police involved shootings.
Right.
Just by nature, there's less need for it.
Because the community would trust the people that come from the community in the force.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to lock you up. I'm going to lock you up, Steve. Now, come on, I'm going to lock you up. Come on, man. It's conversation.
Right.
Not what you doing around here. Who are you? Like, you know me,
Right.
Yeah.
Pastor Battle, you are also chaplain of the Washington Wizards, right?
Yes.
What was that like during COVID-19?
It's still COVID-19. So March 7th, I did a game. So the chaplain, as chaplains in the NBA, we do a service pregame. So 1 hour before every home game, we do a chapel service in a neutral locker room, and it's available for all players from both teams, coaches, whatever, front office people. And on March 7th, I did a game, and it was the last game I did in person. And it was with the Brooklyn Nets, who had played the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz player, there were two players for the Utah Jazz where it started spreading in the NBA.
Right.
Well, immediately after that, we had to, the season shut down and everything. So we still do chapel services now. We do them all via Zoom because they're not letting anybody down in the arena now, which I kind of like because I don't have to drive down to arena, deal with traffic, find parking and all of that. And it's working. We're doing it via Zoom before every home game.
When you minister to athletes, is there something special? Is there a special focus that you use? As in comparing to your normal congregation, how do you minister to professional athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. They've been entitled most of their lives. They've been the center of attention since they were 7 or 8 years old. They were star of their team, star in high school, star in junior high, star in AAU. They got away without doing their work in college, and they're rich. And some of them are 22 years old, and they're multimillionaires, and they're women throwing themselves at them. So it's a different demographic to talk to about character, about faith, about doing the right thing, about being the right kind of person, about using your platform for what's good and not just for what can bring you more endorsements and more attention. So it's a different audience, no doubt. So the conversations are different. For me to talk to a 27-year-old who's got a supermax contract of $200 million is a different conversation to me talk to a 27-year-old who's trying to find his way. So yeah, the principles are similar, but the way you apply them to their life are a little different. And so what helps me is number one, I love the sport of basketball. I played the sport. I love it. I'm a fan. And so I'm able to connect some lessons from the basketball game into life. And then the other thing about it is I am not as impressed with their financial accomplishments because I've had some in my own life. So, you get to a point in life where it's all relative after a while. Okay, you had a nice car, you got a nice house. What else you gonna do? Oh, I got a nice outfit. I got a nice watch. You know what I mean? Like so then what happens is you get 2 nice cars, and you get 2 nice houses, and you get 3 nice watches, and you got 20 nice outfits. It's just so being in that context and understanding that that they're human, but that they are in a powerful position. And here's the last thing. They have to trust you that you don't want anything from them. Because most of the people in their life have an agenda. They're trying to get something. They're trying to get attention. They're trying to get money. They're trying to get access. And they've got to know that you don't want anything. I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve you. And that takes time to build that trust and that confidence. So it's a lot different.
It's a lot of pressure. Young people with all that money and responsibility, trusting friends, for example. Who do you trust as a true friend? Who do you trust in business?
Right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And are you willing to do the research to understand the business that you're jumping in, or you just saying, y'all go ahead and take care of that? Because there's shysters everywhere. And there's story after story of professional athletes who've been taken advantage of by people who they trusted and lost a lot of money doing it. So many of them tend to be very close to their families. And, you got to respect that, who else can you trust? But their circles are usually a lot smaller. um, but there's a lot of demands on their life.
Yeah.
Demands on their time and attention, a lot of pressure on performance pressure. And the other thing is fans can be brutal. Like the same fan that cheers you one day can say you're garbage the next, and like we should get rid of him, trade him. They're booing him, they're talking about you, and ooh, that's tough because I'm just
I'm only laughing because I remember that the same people that on Palm Sunday was praising Jesus, it was the same people that were saying crucify him
yes,
a few
indeed,
days later.
absolutely, right. That's called cancel culture.
Right,
How
right.
about that? They had cancel culture back then. Yeah. Yeah, people. It's not new. It's the book of Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
They've been
Well,
canceled.
what's new for a lot of parents is homeschooling, and Zoom classes, and a lot of parents are kind of like losing it in a way because it's very difficult. And you counsel couples and parents and children. What have you seen during this past year as far as parents managing what's going on during this period and children coping with all this?
Yeah, it's very challenging, right? Because if most of us would be honest, when you reach a certain age, you've been disassociated from school for so long that your academic habits are not good. So when you're not only when you now are the teacher, which means you got to understand the material well enough to kind of communicate this and to be the bridge between the school and your child, that's a lot. One thing it's done is, I think, is it's raised the level of appreciation for our educators.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think that was very much needed. I think that there are parents now who will go to bat, who will be in the PTA meetings and the board meetings saying, whatever the teachers need, let's make sure they get it, right? Because they understand now all of the pressure that was taken off of them to move their children through every level of education, through high school, through getting their diplomas and preparing for college. That's one thing. The one risk that I think is happening in some situations, not all, is that if there are parents who are too frustrated to teach their children and to let them fail and to let them struggle and let them learn, that they're actually doing a lot of the work, kids are not, I think we're going to see some kids in mass levels who have a level of, and I don't want to use this term, when I say retardation, I don't mean they're retarded. I mean retardation in the sense that there's going to be a delay. And some people might be off grade level because of this year or more of parental intervention. Because if my child is fussy and crying and complaining and we're just sitting there arguing, then eventually I'm going to sit there and do the work and say, don't you understand this? And then go, mm-hmm. And then I'm doing social studies and they're over there washing the dishes or whatever. And it's getting done. So we don't have to do the fights anymore. I just wonder if there are situations where there's more of that happening than should, and what impact that will have on the child's performance. Because there's certain behaviors that you can get away with your mom or even with your dad that a school teacher's not going to have. They're just going to send you to the office.
Right.
You're going to the office in your house. That is the office. That's the office. That's the business office. That's the workspace. That's the dinner table. That's the gym. That's the PE room. That's the art room. It's everything now. So there's nowhere to send you to your room. Like it's going to be very interesting how we come out of this and what grace is available for people to just say, you know what? It's okay if we're not okay. I think that's one of the biggest things that I think people need to hear through this pandemic and beyond. Hey, when we come out of this, it's okay if we're not okay. Like if we're not, like, you know what? That was rough. You know what? When somebody is, it's like let's say somebody's going through a divorce, right? And I've never been through one, but I've heard it. Just the drama, right? The meanness, the back and forth, the lawyers, and all that. But when you're in it, you're in a fight. You're tired, you're exhausted, you're fatigued, but you're in a fight. Like but they're going to take everything. Now, what about custody and the custody battle and all that stuff? And then one day you hear the judge hit their thing, and that's the judgment, right? And you're like, that was rough. that was. I'm gonna need a minute. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, COVID, social distancing, isolation, can't go to church, can't travel. What we went through with this last president for 4 years of that. 4 years of watching. Many of us followed him on social media, not because we supported him, because we want to see what he's doing. Like, what is he going to do now? Like he's scary. Like, it wasn't even funny after a while. Like, this dude is crazy. Like, we're going to need a minute.
Well, how do we get a minute, Pastor Babel?
I don't know how we're going to get it, but I know we're going to need it. Because right now we can't get it because we're still in it, you know? Right. And even though there's been a change in the guards, thank God, there's a new president. We just like, man, we just glad you there. Don't think you so great. It ain't you so such a much. In fact, we glad the sister there because you done fell up the steps. Now, you fell up the steps going on your plane. Like, it's just, we just need a woosah, right? So we didn't need a great leader. We needed a woosah. So thank you for woosah on us. We hope you get something done. But yeah.
Well, and people are getting the vaccine, praise God, and but there are still new strains coming and surges and people not wearing masks and all that kind of stuff. So we need God now more than ever before, as usual. And we say that every day. If we ever needed the Lord before, we sure need him now. Amen. And it's like that every day. So we just have to keep praying. We just have to keep our faith. And people are saying that young people aren't going to church anymore, but yet they still profess faith. And I don't know what that means, but I'm praying that it means that even though people don't have a connection to a particular denomination, they still believe in God and still are trying to find their way. And maybe as they get older, they'll find their way to a group that can really help them, that they can commune with. What do you think about that? Is there a way, or do you see that young people are coming back to the church, or in a phase where they're just kind of trying to find their spirituality?
I think the statistics are showing a lot of studies were done on, studies that I've read have been done on millennials, which somewhere between the ages of 20, 21, 38 in particular, had a difficult time staying connected to the local church. That it had lost contact and lost relevance in their sight. And so what that did for me was put me on this journey of saying, what does the church need to do? I think, to me, what does the church need to do to not lose them, or to get them to come back, if you will, whatever way you want to say it. So if we still got them, how to keep them? If we lost them, how do we create a bridge for them to come back? And I see it as four things. One, I think we need to listen to them. And I think for so long, you grew up like I did. When you were young, you were to be seen, not heard. So you didn't have an opinion. You didn't have a back. You had a gristle. So just don't even bring anything up, right? So somebody said, "Who asked you? Like, what do you think? Like that's so crazy." But listening to them means actually giving credence to what they have to say, right? So, what is it that we're doing at the church that is actually a deterrent to you all's participation? What are we doing? What are we doing? What do we need to know? What is it that you all are interested in? So listening to them. I think the next thing is getting them involved. I think if you have a young person who's just, they come and they sit down and they observe and they leave, well, they probably were on their phone half the time, like just disengaged or whatever. Like, so maybe we need to make the phone a part of the experience in some way. I don't know, but how do we get them involved? Because if they go from the audience to the stage, they're automatically engaged.
Right.
Now they know how difficult it is to engage an audience, how it is to connect with an audience. But then you have their participation. So you move from listening to engagement, which is participation. The third thing is having them at the seat of the table of decision making, the decision making table. By that I mean, why not have young people in leadership roles in the church where they are on boards, where they're part of decision making committees? I think it's dangerous if every committee in the church has people, only elderly people or middle-aged people on those committees. I think having people intentionally who are young adults on those committees so that they, number one, learn from the wisdom of the aged,
right,
learn history, how things operate, but also so that we can have their ingenuity, their creativity, because most of us don't even know how to turn our devices on and know how to interact with people. There's technology that we still got a fax machine or whatever, or a typewriter. I'm being facetious, but we need their creativity and ingenuity.
Yes.
So listening to them, getting them to participate, having them at the table of decision, and then the last thing I would say is letting them lead. Give them something to lead.
You have just described the perfect, what the world now calls DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy.
Yes.
Diversify your board or your leadership or your congregation. Mm-hmm. Give people equity and include them on the decisions.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So just like that needs to be done in the corporate sector, where we balance the scales so that the board, so that the C-suite doesn't just look like a bunch of white men all the time, right? So just like the C-suite needs to be diverse, the church board needs to be diverse. The church elders, the church deacons, the church ministers, the church.
Right. As far as age, that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We need diversity of generations. Because here's the thing. If I'm missing a generation, I'm missing a generation.
Right. Right.
If I'm missing a generation in leadership, I'm missing a generation in impact. If I don't have anybody helping me to reach them, then I'm not going to reach them.
That's right.
I need young people around me to keep me from being corny. And corny is my way of saying I don't want to be out of touch. Don't make me think I'm cool up there and I look ridiculous. I need some young people always just check me and say, Pastor, don't do that. Don't wear that. Don't say that. I might be able to say it's all the way live. I'm thinking something from the center. It's bumping. That's what we used to say back in. That's bumping. Like, it ain't bumping no more. You know what I'm saying? Like I said no cap the wrong way the other day. So I said all cap. And I thought that meant I'm telling you the truth. It's all cap, which means it's all lies. I had it backwards.
Well, you just pointed out a really important point, and that is that we baby boomers are now elders. And so what should we elders do as far as legacy? You speak a lot about, I've seen your sermons about making sure that when we leave here, our glass is empty, not full. Can you give us a bit about that?
Yeah, I call that living with your cup tilted. One of the things that we should be always doing in life is learning and growing. You stop learning, you stop growing. So that means I turn my cup up. I place my cup under fountains that will nurture and grow me. whether that's podcasts or books or YouTube videos or blogs or whatever it is that I'm whatever table I'm eating at, sermons, I need to be growing, right? But there's another responsibility as you get older, and that is I also need to be pouring. So I need to be receiving and I need to be distributing, depositing and pouring. And I think when you get into a spirit that I just want to pour into more, I just want to pour into the next generation. I want to make them better. I want to teach them my lessons. I want to teach them what I've learned. I want to help them to avoid my mistakes, right? So because there are two ways of learning something. One is through experience and one is through education. I can teach you what not to do, or you can learn the hard way. You can learn this through hurt, or you can learn it through hearing, right? And sometimes people just got to learn the hard way. They're not going to just hear it. But what that does is it keeps me in a learning mode, because the more mentees you have that you're mentoring, the more trips you've got to make to your own fountain to have something to pour. So it makes you actually more of a student when you're intentionally pouring. And I just try to make sure that my cup is always leaking. It's coming in, but it's going out. So I'm trying to find ways of distributing this content in the people who will be here when I'm gone. And I think that is one of the most critical things we can do, is if there was anything worth building, it's probably worth continuing. If there was anything worth establishing, like who's going to be sitting where you and I are sitting 30 years from now?
Right.
Well, hopefully us, right? Let's go 50, right? But somebody needs to have these Sunday conversations.
Yeah.
And talk to an audience that still wants to receive content in this way. So then who becomes you? Who learns how you built the relationships to get the guests that you got? How do you set up your line of questions? How do you keep your ear to society to make sure your conversation is relevant to what people are going to? What are your protocols? What are your steps? How did you prepare? How did you get to this level? How did you get on radio? How did you get, you follow what I'm saying? So there's always somebody in the wings who's next. And I think it's our assignment to pay attention to that person and say, I'm, and not even, you don't even have to make it formal. Just start doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just in a conversation. Hey, let me tell you what I learned. Let me tell you how I did this. And then definitely you feed those who are curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those who are curious, you automatically do it. But then sometimes you have to identify people that, hey, I want you to come to this. I'm gonna be doing a little Zoom call with some people who are interested in this industry or interested in the work that I do, and I want to invite you there. I think it might be helpful to you, and you bring them into places where you're pouring.
Amen.
And I want to encourage everybody who's had any modicum of success in any industry to consider looking back. It's called giving back. Right? I'm giving back. I know somebody's back there, so I'm putting stuff in my backpack so that they can pick from it. It's always that whatever's in there, you can have it. And when you live that way, God will continue to fill you up with new information. See, a lot of people are intimidated by doing that because they're afraid that they will become unnecessary.
Obsolete.
Right. That's good. So if I teach you everything I know, then I'm no longer necessary. Yeah. Teach them everything you know and then go out and learn something else.
That's right. Do something new.
Right. Or see, I can never, because I'm not omniscient, I can never exhaust any subject matter. So even if I taught you everything I know on April 4th, 2021, by April 5th, I should be able to teach you something else that I know because I learned something April 5th. So even if I taught you everything I know up to this point, I'm going back to my own well tomorrow. So if I go back to my own well empty, having taught you everything I know, I'm coming back with more to drink the next day.
All right.
You see what I'm saying? So The only people who are intimidated by pouring are people who are not continue to go to the fountain to be nourished themselves.
Wow.
So if I'm not growing, then by giving you everything I got intimidates me.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
if I give you everything, if I give you all my leftovers when I know I can look in my refrigerator and I got plenty to cook tomorrow, then I ain't worried about the leftovers.
Right.
But if I open up my refrigerator and all I see is racks and lights, then I'm going to guard those. See, the people don't know what it's like to just look in your refrigerator and all you see is an Arm & Hammer, baking soda. I don't even know what that's for, but that's the only thing sitting in there. You know, so and your ice cubes up in the freezer, right? But if there's something if I got stuff in my freezer, in my refrigerator, that's just waiting on me to prepare, then I'm not tripping over the leftovers. Have at it. Enjoy yourself.
That's right. Because there's a big new meal waiting for me the next day.
But if my refrigerator's empty, then I don't want to give you anything. I don't know if that's helping anybody, but
oh, it definitely is. And God bless the people whose refrigerators are empty, but they still will give anyway.
Yeah.
Those are the courageous ones. And you're certainly one of the courageous ones that are leaders. The words that you say to us through God's guidance have provided us with so much information and inspiration. And I want to thank you personally for your online ministry and the work that you do in the community. You do a tremendous job, and it's quite an honor to have you on HUR at Home Inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me today and being my first guest a year ago on HUR at Home Inspiration.
My pleasure. Thanks,
Pastor Keith Battle.
Thanks for having me again.
And as we did before, if you could end our conversation with a prayer. I want to thank our people who have joined us today, Kenyon McAfee and Ronjalyn Curry. What a beautiful name. And Kathy Miller Wilson and Lisa Love My Jules Baton. Okay. And Angela Trapp. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you join us next Sunday here on HUR at Home Inspiration. Pastor Battle, if you could give us a prayer.
Absolutely. Lord, thank you so much for this platform. Thank you so much for how you've allowed us to pivot in a pandemic and to create ways of connecting and building ourselves up spiritually in ways that protect us medically, but still feed us spiritually. Thank you for this creative idea. And I pray that you'll continue to use Jackie to continue to bring great, fresh, helpful content to this audience and to bless many lives. Thank you for this privilege of sharing this evening. And we pray that the things that we heard tonight will inspire us, not just inform us, but inspire us, because we need to be inspired to do things. So inspire us to do things, to be better, and to do better, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Zion's Pastor Keith Battle, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're going to have you back. I'm Jackie Gales Webb. Thank you so much for joining us today on HUR at Home Inspiration. Join us next Sunday, and please be safe and be blessed. Thank you.